Do you ever wake up with this longing for something or somewhere? Kind of like you're stuck in the wrong place.
See what you think of this then.
Ta-da! What are we looking at?
Bacteria, viruses, all huddle on the surface area like little microscopic aliens and monsters.
It's scary.
Which is exactly why we're here.
I just don't think this is my kind of thing.
If you think you can do better, be my guest.
Cash, of course.
I'm sorry, I don't have any change.
Oh, really?
I'm a control freak, aren't I?
Get involved!
Cheers, love. Anyway, yeah. No, wait.
Oh.
Why don't you come back next week?
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to day 2 of the People's Film Festival. I am director Dustin Curtis Murphy. We have 50 short films streaming at kinoshortfilm.com/the People's Film Festival. And you can access all of them from now until March 12th for pay what you can afford. You can also vote for your favorite filmmaker to win our £1,000 film fund. And right now I'm chatting with 3 filmmakers who all have films in our festival, all about the topic of race, in particular, the Black Lives Matter movement. I'll introduce them one at a time as I bring them into the room. So first up, we are chatting with Pierre Niyongira, director of Dina. Hi, Pierre.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Did I get your last name all right, or did I totally butcher it?
It's Niyongira.
Niyongira. Okay.
Close enough, though.
Welcome. Dina's an amazing film. We're so glad to have you on board.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Next up, we have Alan Trinca and Cory McCants, screenwriters and actors in Precursor. How you guys doing?
Hey, guys. I'm so good, man. Thanks for having us.
What's going on?
Good. You're one of the few people who can actually get in the room together rather than having to be virtual.
Right.
Absolutely, man. It's
an advantage, right?
It's an advantage.
All right, so we are all over the world. Pierre, are you in London or in Bristol?
I'm currently in Bristol at the moment.
Okay, so you're in Bristol. You're here in the UK, like me. I'm in London, and Cory and Alan, New York, right?
Buffalo, New York, actually.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Yeah. All right. So yeah, we are transatlantic at the moment. Well, fantastic work, guys. I love both of the films. They add so much to our official selection. So really, really great work. Before we start chatting about your films, I just want to start by giving the audience a bit of context about yourselves and a little bit of elevator pitch. Did a bit of research on you guys. So I'll start reading your bios, and then from there we'll chat about it. So Alan.
Yeah.
You are a New York-based actor-writer from Buffalo. You met Cory studying theater performance at the Niagara University and began a writing partnership doing sketch comedy. In 2018, you collaborated with Filmstorms on Alan's short film Warriors for Social Justice, which is selected to appear at multiple festivals, and have been working together ever since. Alan was most recently seen off-Broadway in Mistrial at the New York World Stage and as a co-star in Bull on CBS, and the voice of the character Hoist in Transformers Rescue Bots Academy on Discover Family.
Big time.
All right, I got that right?
You read that real nice. I got nothing else to say.
Nothing else to say. That's you in a nutshell.
Me in a nutshell.
Nice. Cory, Buffalo native who began career in entertainment after graduating, same university in 2011, where you met your co-writer Alan. In 2015, you spent a few years in New York City, where you seized numerous opportunities to work with directors such as Ava DuVernay, which we will be talking about later. Super curious about that, and companies like MTV and Geico. Cory currently works as a performing arts teacher at a charter school in Buffalo, using what he's learned to help teach the next generation. I love it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, elephant in the room. Elephant in the room. Ava DuVernay, what's the story?
You know what? It actually sounds much cooler than it actually is, but the opportunity to work with her was amazing. But her and Robert De Niro were shooting a pilot for a new show. It was going to be called For Justice. I'm not actually sure if it actually got picked up, but when I first moved to New York, I got an opportunity to work on it. I started off as like background, and then they kind of liked my look. And I'm like, hey, you, come here, you know, and I kind of boosted up to like a featured extra, and you know, I kept like working my way up until I was like, you know, in scenes with some of the leads and everything like that. She actually got to direct me a little bit, and I told her like that was a lifelong dream. When she, you know, after she was like, all right, I want you to do this, I was like, you just fulfilled a dream of mine. Like you just directed me. This is incredible. You know what I mean? But living in New York City, those kind of opportunities are what comes up. Like, and it's all what you make it. So anytime I'm somewhere, if someone's like, what is your credibility as an actor? I'm like, well, I'll have you know. You told me where to move on set and everything. You know, I'm holding on to that.
I love it. You're like, I was in the right place at the right time.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Nice. Well, bummer we can't see that project. Yeah, I haven't heard of it. Hopefully, maybe it'll still get picked up. But because I mean, I love her work, obviously. And Robert De Niro, I think he's done some good stuff. I think I've heard of him.
Never heard of him. Yeah.
All right, Pierre. I pulled your short bio off of Film Freeway. I know you're kind of just starting out, aren't you? Because you're a recent graduate. So you're an award-winning and international first-class 2019 graduate filmmaker from the University of the West of England. And it says, through my experience in the industry, I have taken up roles as a writer, director, editor, DOP, and photographer. I enjoy experimenting, so my work covers a wide range of subjects, styles, and techniques. So Dina is your first narrative film, correct?
Yes, it's my first narrative film. Yeah, I come more from a documentary sort of background because I just really love real stories, and I think this was a way of implementing that in a drama, in a short drama. So yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, well, I mean, fantastic work. Not for a first-time filmmaker, but for a first-time filmmaker, really fantastic work. I know we have you nominated for Best First-Time Filmmaker, and best of luck at the award show next Friday. So before I go end up saying too much, I think some people probably have seen your films that are watching, some probably haven't. So I won't give away too many spoilers, but if you're comfortable talking about any of the spoilers, I'll let you guys spoil it all you want, right? Just whatever makes the conversation better. Why don't you tell me about your film in a nutshell? We'll start with you, Pierre. So Dina was the winner of the Academy Prize at the RWA's 116th annual exhibition. I was reading, that's right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Congrats on that. It says that there was just a couple submissions. There was 3,566 submissions.
Jeez. I didn't know
and you
that.
won.
I didn't know that.
Well, I mean, come on, that is a huge feat, man. That is amazing.
No, yeah, it's an absolute honor, and it's also the first time a film's actually been awarded the first prize as well, which is an absolute an achievement in itself. So yeah, I'm really honored, and the fact that it's in Bristol, the hometown, and that's what the story's all revolved about. Dina's about a Bristolian runaway slave. So I mean, it just meant so much for my city to honor that in that such light. So yeah, it's great. So
what was their event like, the RWA's event? Because it was during COVID, so
yeah, that's a great question. So that's been postponed for quite a bit actually. They're hoping to have an exhibition open, like a great grand opening in May or somewhere like that. Yeah.
All right. Fingers crossed. So still to come.
Yeah, exactly. Still to come.
And I know Dina was produced by Guillermo, who has another film in our festival as well, Elena's documentary.
Yeah.
How did you guys meet?
We both went to the same uni. Guillermo was a great producer. We worked on several projects together, and we worked on our first project, and our final year project is a documentary that went on to do really well. And yeah, it just sort of clicked. Yeah, he's a great person, great human being, and in the industry you got to work with the people that you collab and like really resonate with. So yeah.
Absolutely. So Cory and Alan, you guys met in university as well and started collaborating. Tell us a little bit about your film in a nutshell.
Yeah, so Precursor is a film about what it is like, what it could be like versus what it is like to talk to someone from a different background with different beliefs. And it's kind of just a snippet of a conversation, and you see what happens when you're talking just to talk. And then we kind of show you what could happen if you talk to listen. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I was going to say in terms of, the society today, everything is so hyper polarized, and there's a lot of reasons for that, good and and bad, really. But there are a lot of really good reasons why people have the beliefs that they have, and we wanted to just shed a light on what could happen if we let our defenses down and did the hard work of actually listening to each other and talking to each other, and what could be. Basically this film is a microcosm of what could be if everybody did it right as a society. It's idealistic, absolutely, but
yeah, absolutely
really important.
Yeah, well, it's a fantastic film. So I don't know how much you guys know about my background, but I'm originally from the United States as well. I'm from the opposite coast. I'm from California. So I have the unique perspective of knowing what it's like in the States and knowing what it's like in the UK. And kind of seeing the political and social differences between the two of them, and how we have similarities but differences when it comes to race and how people interact and how people talk. So let's just jump straight in. Let's talk about the social issues of the Black Lives Matter movement and how 2020. How did 2020 shape and inspire your films? And when, is in regards to the protests, were your films made, Pierre?
My film Dina. So the film originally was meant to be about Edward Colston. I don't know if you guys know of Edward Colston. He was sort of he was this very pristine man that somewhat, I don't know how to put this in words. He was a slave master, sort of. Sorry, I'm going a bit blank here. Originally,
so your film opens with the statue of him.
Exactly. It was quite big during the BLM movement because they had the pulling of the Edward Colston statue, and that was originally meant to be about the film that I made with Dina. And before that, not a lot of people knew of Edward Colston before the pulling of the statue, and I really wanted to put that out into a film. And I had him. I had an actor who played Edward Colston, and I had scenes written revolved around the statue. And yeah, it all, when they're pulling the statue, is somewhat an ironic moment, because I was a bit bummed at the same time. I was like, oh, my scenes, all this work that I had been, trying to make, and somewhat. It was also a blessing in disguise, because now a lot more people were informed of Edward Colston and his past. And that allowed me to delve deeper into that sort of period, that Georgian period, and delve into stories such as like Dina. And that's where it all sort of started.
So interesting. So you were developing it how long? A couple months, couple years before the protests?
So I started writing this story back in December.
Okay.
So 2019, yeah.
Interesting. So similarly, I'm working on a documentary about police brutality, specifically in the United States, that predates all the police action that happened during the protests. So I just remember sitting there during the protests on Twitter, just constantly watching, like, oh my God. like it's so relevant to what I'm making, and it completely changed my project as well, just like it changed yours. So you got involved with New Creatives, and BBC Arts came on board, and the Arts Council England came on board. How did that come about, especially for a first-time narrative filmmaker? How did you attract such heavy support?
It's really just a matter of pitching. So the New Creatives Initiative is a program that's run by New Creatives and BBC Arts, and they select around 11 creatives, like 11 upcoming filmmakers and artists, to create a short film or a short audio piece. And yeah, out of the Southwest region, I was lucky enough to get selected. And yeah, and you know, it's just a matter of just pitching a really good story. That's what it is at the end of the day. It's just having a good story that, you know, people can resonate with, and that, you know, can make good, good work of art, you know?
Yeah, well, it's a great story. It reminds me very much of like a Twilight Zone episode, and I love Twilight Zone. It's a nice work, man. So in the States, Cory and Alan, how familiar are you with the pulling down of the Colston statue?
It is something I definitely saw it. I mean, and it was happening a lot in the States too. That was happening with a lot of statues here as well. So it was kind of like in the mix of the news. I was hearing about all of that happening, and it was like, I mean, the news here definitely covered what was happening in the UK as well, because they were talking about how the, you know, movement had just spread, and like everybody is, you know, feeling the same unrest and right along with us. So it is something I heard about. I wasn't too familiar beforehand, but I definitely did hear about it.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with that specific statue pulling. You know, it's when you're getting bombarded with all these different things that are happening, and it was, you know, there was an element of chaos sort of emerging from the order, right, from the hyper order, and that kind of has to happen in the cycle of society. But you know, I had missed that specifically.
Yeah, it was one of the biggest ones in the UK, at least. But yeah, obviously the US has so much other big news. I mean, 2020 was just a daily barrage of craziness on your news feed, wasn't it?
It sure was, man.
So, yeah, Precursor, in regards to the protests, when was it made? Before? Was started developing before? After? During? Tell me about it.
So we were Manolo Campos, the director. We've been talking about, you know, we wanted to work on something that mattered, and Cory and I got together, and there was just, you know, we had a lot of conversations, and you know, I'm personally very grateful for our partnership, because we trust each other enough to be able to write something like this and really explore both sides of a perspective, right, and explore the best arguments on both sides, and try and, you know, have that come to life on camera. But what was interesting was, like, you know, through our conversations, we were like, man, what if other people could talk like we can talk? You know what I mean? Like what would that look like? And so it was, what, a month? I think we released it a month after everything happened with George Floyd specifically. Right? That's when we actually, we started writing, I think 2 weeks after that happened. And then a few weeks after that, we had it shot. We had it completed.
From my memory, it was definitely like, Alan came to me and was like, yo, I got an idea. I want to write something. I need you to help me write it. And it was, yeah, like you said, a couple weeks after that happened. And when he like pitched it to me, you know, he told me his vision. He's like, there's specific things I need to have in it, like that he saw. And from there, we like built around it. And I want to say it took maybe 2 weeks to write it, like 2 weeks to write it. And it was just a bunch of those kind of difficult conversations. And then from there, you know, the rest is history, right?
And then Manolo worked his magic on the camera.
Right.
And yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your relationship with Manolo.
So Manolo and I, so actually that Warriors for Social Justice short film that I shot back in 2019, I think 2018, 2019. Yeah. I should probably know that, but we shot, so I wrote this short film, and a really good friend of mine, Adam Mansell, was going to shoot it for me. And on the day of the shoot, he calls me, he says, hey man, I'm bringing this guy, Manolo Campos. He's going to shoot it. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's going to, I don't know. I never met him. If we just trust me, you want him to shoot this. I'm like, okay. Like, it was like a huge curveball. It's my first project. I didn't really know what was going on. Cory was in that actually, but then Manolo came, and, you know, he's just brilliant. And so we started a working relationship. And so we started working together and writing other projects. And he's a really phenomenal DP director. And Cory, that was the first time Cory had worked with him as well. And so together we thought this would be a really great collaborative process.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah. So obviously your film came pre-cast. You wrote it for yourselves. You knew you wanted to do that. Pierre, can you tell me a little bit about the casting process in your film? And then when was it actually made, the month of production? Was it during lockdown?
Yes, it was during the summer period. I shot on the 1st and the 2nd of August. And the casting process is just a matter of really looking online, and then just having auditions over Zoom, which was very funny actually. I'm not gonna lie, because for the Edward Colston role that we were potentially going to have, we had a bunch of middle-aged men trying to work out Zoom, and we were like trying to direct them. Like, no, what's this? No. Yeah, yeah, it's great. It was great fun.
It reminds me. Did you guys see that that poor actor who was in a casting, and the director didn't mute himself, and he started saying like, "Oh, look at this guy," blah blah blah, and he thought he was muted. It's like,
oh, I saw that, man. That was
so
brutal.
Painful. It was so painful. And he was like saying like, "If you give me the gig, man, then I blah blah blah." He was insulting the guy's background. He's like, "Look at this guy. This guy like lives in poverty and blah blah blah." And
it was. And by the way, as someone who's lived in New York City for 6 years, like looking at that kid's apartment, I'm like, oh, it's a pretty decent sized place. That's right. You know?
Oh, the new world that we live in.
Yeah.
So Pierre, you shot over August. You said how many days would you shoot?
Just over 2 days.
Just over 2 days. All right. So you covered a lot in that time. I mean, 2 different time periods and everything. You had all the built-in production design with some of the graffiti of the BLM stuff, which was really added all that authenticity, which was great. Cory, Alan, how long was your shoot?
1 day.
Yeah, 1 day shoot.
Beat me.
We just
I mean, ours was all in one location.
Yeah,
it was a conversation, so we did not cover decades or centuries of time. So it sounds like Pierre had a lot to do.
Yeah. We just had to be well rehearsed. That's really it. We were well rehearsed, and then we went in on the shoot day, and we just did it. Just did it.
Pierre, how about your rehearsal process? Did you get an opportunity to rehearse much in advance, or was it all on the fly since everything was limited during lockdown?
Yeah, so we had our first scout on like the main like where the main story would take place, which was in the forest, and I got a chance to like read and go through the script with the 2 main protagonists, and yeah, it was quite an interesting process because it was only because we had all met each other for the first time there and then, and it was just like first time directing for me as well, like with actors. Yeah, really eye-opening experience. I enjoyed it.
Interesting, good stuff. So just a little bit back to kind of the differences between the US and the UK. I have a little bit of the perspective since I've lived in both, to where the same issues of race are obviously issues all over. But what are your perspectives on how it might be different in the US to the UK? And do you really feel that you can really even comment on that, or you can just comment just to your location of what the Black Lives Matter movement means in the UK?
I definitely cannot be a spokesman of the UK. Yeah, but I think they both have correlations with history and relevance as well. And what I find really interesting right now is the hot topic, which I'd like to get your opinion on, is with these British actors, British black male actors working in Hollywood and taking on these, which would be historically African American roles, such as like Daniel in the Judas and the Black Messiah. I think that's a very interesting hot topic that I'd be meaning to pick people's brains about. So I'd love to hear your opinion on that, guys.
Cory, Alan?
Yeah, I actually watched it last night, and it's such a powerful, such a moving film, man. I mean, it gets deep, and I mean, to Daniel's credit, I mean, since Black Mirror, you know what I mean? Since that episode of Black Mirror, I was like, yo, I don't know who this dude is, and then Get Out, and then Black Panther. Like, I mean, he's been on it, just killing it. Go ahead.
Get Out with Jordan Peele.
Yeah. He's amazing, and I've had these conversations with other actors, and I've watched lots of interviews with Hollywood actors and stuff to try and gain a different opinion. And from being a Black actor to looking at specifically what you're talking about, like Black actors coming over here, that's how they say it, like they coming over here taking our jobs. Yeah. And I think it's tricky because in the world where at first all we wanted was to like be able to be seen, right? At first you got Elizabeth Taylor playing, you know, Queen Nefertiti or something like that. Like that's what it was at first. And it's like, can we just get a black person to play a black person? And now we have that. And it's like, well, dang, can we get a black American person to play a black American person? It's like, you know, not to say that like it's like unwarranted or something like that, because it is. And it is, him getting that job is a black American actor not getting that job. And it's about the history that has happened here. Whereas one of our grandparents might have gone through that or known of Fred Hampton or gone to, you know, one of those rallies or something. It's like there's a connection there that might not be there, you know, with someone who can't fully relate to it. But what you won't find is any actor or person saying he didn't do that job justice. And I think that's kind of where it gets to. So it is like, would I want, I don't know, I mean, maybe not Michael B. Jordan, but like, would I want a well-known black actor or even an unknown playing that role? Yeah, because there's something to it. But if Daniel did that role justice, which he did, if he did that role justice, you wouldn't think like, man, I can kind of hear his accent a little bit in there. You know, like that man, he did that thing. And so if the message is there and the message is coming across and you felt it the way people seem to have felt it, I just feel like now is not the time. There will be a time for that, but I just think now is not the right time, because right now these movies are coming across, and right now we're getting this message out, and it's messages of empowerment. You know what I mean? And I know that story, like the story of that is just, there's so much in it. You know what I mean? And like Lakeith Stanfield's role and like just how messed up the story is. But it's a story of power, and he wasn't played as, you know, some junkie, or he wasn't played as like, they didn't try and play to his weaknesses in that movie. And if Ryan Coogler has anything to do with it, he's not gonna let that happen. He's gonna make sure these black people are seen as strong black people, and they were. And so I feel like, why hang on that right now? He did the role justice. So like, let's talk about that. You know what I mean? That's kind of like where I take it from, in that, like, that's my standpoint in that direct like correlation of, is it, do we care that he's from the UK, or do we care that they're taking jobs? Or, I mean, you know, I just feel like the UK takes acting seriously to a different level. Like here, I feel like it's just entertainment, and there it seems like it's treated like art, to where it's like people, if you're an actor, you're like an actor, you're a thespian. Here it's like, yeah, I was big on TikTok, so I decided to try and do a movie. You know what I mean? I'm just like, man, we got to get back to the art of it, though. You know what I mean? Now, I hope I don't get canceled for saying that. Like, I hope TikTok not gonna be like, no, man, get this guy out of here. But like, you know, that's kind of what it seems like. That's kind of what it seems like, the celebrity of being an actor here versus people who are in the UK and like come here and just are crushing it. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Pierre, what's your perspective on that then, since you asked the question?
I think I totally agree with Corey. I mean, yeah, it's really a matter of like, you know, if they can definitely deliver it, and if they honor it and pay homage, because I think the beauty of the film was exposing the story of Fred Hampton, because that's something I was never told or have heard of. And I'm really glad, like, you know, that story came about, and, you know, it's a lot better, and we're very thankful for that. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So just some of the differences from what I've learned between the US and the UK is, in the UK, things have been kind of brushed under the rug a lot more than the US, haven't they? I think the US is a bit more flashy and showy with how awful it is. I mean, you're constantly seeing, you know, murder, you know, people being shot by police officers because of the color of their skin. In the UK, it's a little bit more, you know, subtle and insidious. For one thing, you know, your average UK police officer isn't armed, so they can't shoot. You know, so there's at least that level of protection there. But one thing that I was shocked to find out about the UK was reparations, right, that were paid to slave owners, not black people affected by slavery, but to slave owners.
Yeah.
And how long that took place. So these payments were going to the estates of slaveholders up until the past, well, when did it, like 2012 or something like that?
What?
Yeah.
Oh, whoa, man! I did not know that.
I've never heard that before.
No, it's
Whoa.
crazy.
And I think like the topic of reparations can be a controversial one, but like it shouldn't really be a battle about who gets it. At least, I mean, going to the estates of dead slaveholders, I was floored.
That is, I don't understand. I don't understand the justification. What is like?
Was it like because they had to give up slaves and
Yeah.
they lost?
And
Wow,
it
man.
was not as like business as well, because that's what it really was like, like tobacco industry and like the labor that went into it. So it was a way of compensating for for work.
I'm actually shocked. Like
I was too.
Yeah, I know it's
wow.
That's real.
And what? Okay, so it's funny because like that is a huge topic that I feel like if that had sort of risen to the top of the media headlines, everybody will be talking about it or would have been talking about it. The fact that like that kind of did get suppressed and swept under the rug, that's crazy, right? Because a lot of people got a lot of money for something for losing slaves. It's wild.
Well, and people's grandsons, great grandsons, people like that down the line who never had anything to do with it personally were still financially benefiting from the sins of the father, sins of the grandfather. It's pretty crazy.
Jeez.
Yeah. So anyways, that's just my little take on just the differences between the US and the UK. And I know both of you guys are, you're not, you haven't lived in both countries, so you can't necessarily speak to those differences. But Cory and Alan, you've lived in New York. What's the lingering effects that you guys are feeling from all of the insanity that happened last summer?
You want to start?
Yeah, sure, man. It's really interesting because when the George Floyd incident, murder, I guess you could just call it what it is, happened, right? I didn't see or hear of one perspective that didn't basically just outright call it murder. And I'm sure there's people out there that were like, oh, but what really happened before, blah, blah, blah. But like, it was so obvious when you watch that video that there was basically no one who was like, that isn't murder. Like it's definitely murder. Right. Mm-hmm. And then it was interesting because there was this moment of like, we're all in this together almost. And then it like just as quickly split. And then the Black Lives Matter movement sort of arose. And all of a sudden, now there are two factions. There's the Black Lives Matter movement, and then there was like the anti-Black Lives Matter movement. It's like, well, how did we get here? We were just all right here, and all of a sudden now we're here. And I think that's a symptom of the country and maybe the world. I mean, and Pierre, you can probably speak to that because I don't really, I'm not super familiar with UK's politics. But Brexit. I mean, yeah, you guys totally have your own divisional issues. And like, what's interesting is because we're so divided and it's so polarized, like black and white. I mean, literally black and white, no pun intended. Like we have, it's a symptom of society where we can't talk to each other. We can't have that discussion. And I think the biggest thing for me is that I believe that if we used our intellect, like our brains that we have been gifted, right, with the ability of reason and thought and critical thinking, we could actually analyze what it is that we truly think instead of being fed and regurgitating what we're told to think. And I think that's a big issue. I think you asked what the repercussions are or the basically how the aftermath of all of this is felt. I see hope, man. Like I can't help but see hope because yes, it's ugly when these things first hit, right? When a long-standing issue that's been swept under the rug or ignored on some level is brought to the surface. It's ugly at first, and I think it kind of has to be, but now I feel like there's a lot out there that we didn't know that we now know. And I think because of that, moving forward, we can move forward with purpose.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
There's something that you don't know is there. And
Now,
there's so many people who don't know. But yeah, right. Knowledge is the precursor to change. That's the essence of what that is.
Yeah.
So what do you think your roles are as artists in telling these type of stories? Have you seen direct impacts of how your art is affecting people? Is it creating interesting conversations that you're participating in or witnessing in, or is that still a vision of more places you want to take your film to enable more conversations? Pierre?
You put me on the spot. Great question. I think, yeah, I mean, having the film, you know, being at the RWA, I think definitely brought a light to Dina's story, because, you know, everyone's always thinking of Edward Colston, and he's sort of plastered all around Bristol. They have schools named after Edward Colston. They have street names named after Edward Colston. We got a building called Colston Hall, and then, you know, there's all these other individuals, you know, the people that were during that period, you know, the slaves, and, you know, and we were lucky enough that, you know, like Dina was actually even mentioned in these pages of history, and I just wanted to bring a light to that, and the fact that her story's being told, you know, just makes it that much better.
Mm-hmm. I think we need to do a follow-up once the exhibition kicks into effect and all those eyes are on your film. I'm just so curious what how that's going to affect them, because it's such an affecting piece of art.
Thank you so much.
Corey, Alan, any interesting aftermath from your film and how it's affected people?
Definitely. I think, I mean, us making it, again, was just like, there was a need. And as artists, it's kind of like, if you're not, if the purpose is not to serve in some way, like, why are you really doing it? And you don't really do it for the views, and you don't really do it for the notoriety, but you do it to teach, right? You do it to teach something, whatever the genre is. And so I think we made it because we felt like we needed to. And once we started, we kind of couldn't stop. But the aftermath of, you know, people like just our friends talking to us, family talking to us, and then extended from that, there are people who are like, and this is not to like put anybody in a box, but people who are like, you know, Trump supporters. Not to say that Trump supporters are bad, but that these are people who usually align themselves with all lives matter as opposed to Black lives matter, or, you know what I mean, blue lives matter as opposed to, so people who are normally boxed like that have come out and either written me or written people that know me to say that film really meant a lot. And that was one of the biggest things I think we wanted with the film, was that, and one of the most challenging parts was to write for both characters and have both characters feel like they're being heard, because we know what we think and we know what side like we agree with, but it wasn't, the goal wouldn't have been accomplished if we had said, this is why Black Lives Matter is right, this is why they're justified, and everything else is just, you don't have a reason, right? Everyone feels like they have a reason. And so with us writing that other point of view and really trying to give it justice, everyone felt heard. And if everyone feels heard, everyone can say, okay, well, I do agree with this. Or from a listening standpoint, now that I know you know how I feel, I'll listen to what you have to say, and maybe you're not all wrong. And so what we as actors portrayed kind of was mimicked in real life, to where people who you wouldn't expect to be like, he had some good points, we're saying that. And it was just like, I mean, this is the point. This is why we did it. So you feel like you could maybe listen to someone, you can maybe talk to someone. And I think, to me, that is like the biggest payoff, to have like other teachers say, hey, a friend of mine was showing a class and they used your film, you know, things like, and I know you've had things like that, you know?
Yeah, no. So basically everything Corey said is exactly how I feel. And beyond that, you know, one of my one of my English teachers from high school, right? He was a pretty tough guy. And but I really respected him for a lot of reasons. And he actually, he contacted me after the film, and he said that he showed the whole school the film as like a teaching presentation. Wow. And that like really meant a lot to me, to be like, man, the high school that I went to, right? This like, you know, private school that I went to in Buffalo, just outside of Buffalo, it showed the film that we wrote and produced and acted in, you know? So that was really amazing. And, you know, I had a director once tell me, there's no such thing as bizarre behavior, that everybody does something for a reason. And even though it may seem bizarre to you, they have a rationale for why they do that thing. And that really changed my outlook on things. Like, just, you know, having that idea settle in and really what it really means, you know, like everybody does have a reason, and some of them are misguided and some of them are not. But I think the only way we can discern the misguided from the not misguided is by having those conversations and not being afraid to talk about them, you know?
Exactly.
And the fact that you have these people who otherwise you would feel like are opposed to the Black Lives Matter movement, reaching out and being like, man, that really resonated with me. And there's a lot of stuff that I didn't know before. So thank you. Like that, you know, it means everything.
Yeah, well, it's good. I love the message of unity and the optimism within the film, and how it is that olive branch to where it's saying, like, it's reaching out to people who you know you disagree with, and instead of pointing out what you disagree with, it's finding that commonality and then saying, all right, now let's do the tough work. Let's heal this. So that's really good. I think it's what you were just saying makes me reflect on the importance of the type of conversations we elevate on a global and national level, right? I think too often where we turn on, you know, the news or pundit shows, and it's always the conflict, right? It's always the conflict, and you know, it's been shown that they actually go out of their way to find people who are going to disagree the most so they can boost their ratings to get more eyes because they want something terrible to happen on the show, even if, you know, the ideas being presented aren't necessarily in line with what the majority of the country thinks. And so I think it really is our responsibility as artists to elevate the conversation, to not, you know, always go to that lowest common denominator of conflict, even though we naturally gravitate towards it.
Yeah, man. Just to speak to that real quick, you know, we could have just made a short film that highlighted why just Black Lives Matter was right and everybody else was wrong. And guess what? We probably would have also gotten a lot of reshares. We probably would have gotten a lot of Black Lives Matter people being like, oh man, like, this is what I'm talking about. This is it. This is it. But what good does that do? Like what good does it actually do to say, I'm right, you're wrong, period? All it does, as far as I'm concerned, is sort of like, and I think you should know what's right, and you should be able to have that conversation. But when you stand on that pedestal, and if you're making art just to sort of preach to your own audience, it doesn't resonate the same. It doesn't go anywhere. Yeah.
Thoughts, Pierre?
No, I totally agree. I mean, when you have such a strong opinionated message, it sort of divides the people instead of unifying them, and that's much that. Yeah.
And it's a strategy that we see, you know, being used in multiple countries all over. Divide and conquer. Get all these other people to disagree with each other, and then they won't pay attention to me, this leader at the top who has his own agenda, right? Anyways, it's been a great conversation, guys. Let's go a little bit more toward the filmmaking side of things. One thing that I've been doing in all the Q&As is I teach film as well, and I always love being super transparent about the mistakes that I've made in my filmmaking process, so any other filmmakers watching can learn from my mistakes so they don't have to repeat them. So my question to you is, what mistake did you make in the making of Dina and Precursor that you wouldn't repeat and that other people don't have to make? Pierre?
Okay, this is a great question. I'm actually prepared. So with Dina, we had to do a shooting technique, day for night. If you guys know day for night, right? First time I've ever heard of it. I'd never heard of it. And it's essentially sort of emulating the nighttime, and instead we'll shoot during the day. And I was like, cool, let's do that. But the thing is, it was the 1st of August. It was really sunny, and in order to have the right, you know, climate, it's gotta be cloudy. And so on the first day, we'd just be waiting, watching clouds, and just when it was perfect, we'd be like, action, go. It was a lot of waiting, and just it was a terrible way to start the production as well, and it was a terrible way to like debut my like directing abilities. Very, very stressful, But yeah, I would definitely you know, encourage people, when you do day for night, really think about it, calculate. And yeah, don't make the same mistakes I did.
It's interesting. Because I mean, we're in the UK. You would think that it would be cloudy. Yeah. Cory, Alan.
So I'll say this. I think there are some times when the stars just align, right? And sometimes, like, you just sort of, you're in the right place at the right time. All the elements sort of fit together, and and you're like, wow, that like went really well. Like the writing process, we were so meticulous about it, right? Like because we had to do it right. So it was almost like performing operation with, you know, coming up with these you know, okay, we want to touch on this and we don't want to just like throw it away. So we have to comment on it, but we also want to move on to the next thing. So like we did that so meticulously that I don't think I would do that any differently. The production itself, Manolo handled very well as a director, and he came down from New York, and basically, you know, the vision, it all made sense. The location sort of fell into our lap, and it was one of those situations where. So here's what I'm going to say. This fell into place. There are definitely other short films that we've done.
So yeah, what I'll say is the one thing I've learned from it, and we had a situation where we had to wait around too because out of nowhere it started raining, and so like we were in this, you know, we were like in this giant warehouse with like a garage door, so like rain was slapping the, you know, so like checking the weather is for everybody. It doesn't matter if you shoot something inside or outside, you need to know the weather. But what I will say that it taught me is that don't let the success of one film give you the confidence that you just got it now, because that is what has happened. Like, because that worked out so well and everything worked out, like, again, it was one location. It was, you know, two of us, we were pretty much standing still. Like, it was a lot to make it go well. You know, like, it wasn't a difficult shoot. But I feel like my butt got kicked the next short we did. Because I was like, oh, yeah, shooting a short, that's all you got to do?
Yeah.
We got this. And then, like, when you start changing locations and stuff, it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We got to do all this. Like, so don't let the success of one short or one film make you feel like, oh, it's easy street. I got it on a lot. Because another film will not be right in your butt.
Amen. Stay humble.
There you go.
Stay humble.
Yeah.
Nice, guys. So what's the next project that you're working on? You know, since we can't network in person at the festival, this is your chance to give a shout out if there's any particular collaborator that you're looking for on your future project. And if you are looking for somebody, tell them how to get in touch. So next project and any collaborators you're in need of, Pierre?
So currently at the moment, I'm like with the new creators, where you had a program that was trying to get, the 11 creatives in the Southwest region. We had this new initiative by Netflix, where instead it would be like selecting 10 upcoming filmmakers out of the whole country.
Was this their documentary one?
Yes, the documentary one. That's the one. So I've just gotten through the first stage, and I'm
congrats.
Just away. Yeah, so it's going great, and yeah, that's what I'm hoping to get, and hopefully start shooting in May. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Nice. Are you in need of any collaborators at this stage, or are you just still in the early development?
Yeah, still sort of the early development. Right now, we have to make a film pitch, like a pitching video to send to them by the 15th of March. So, yeah.
Gotcha.
But,
well, congrats on making it that far.
Thank you.
At least the first step.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Cory, Alan?
You want to talk Good Life? I'll talk Film Storms.
Yeah. So for Good Life, that is like what that's like a production company me and Alan both run. That's something we created where we're doing a lot. Like, we do a lot of short films. They're usually in the world of comedy. But like, we try and do as much as we can. We want to do it all. So they don't have to be stuck there. But we just finished a short called Between the Lines, something very, very funny, like raunchy, ridiculous, and things like that. So we do a lot of shorts like that. And right now we have, we're like just building up our social media for it. Everything has been on our personal social media. So now we have a Good Life Instagram and things like that. So everything is, We Are Good Life ENT, right?
Yeah.
So it's We Are Good Life ENT at Gmail. We Are Good Life ENT on Instagram. Like, if you want to follow us anywhere to see and stay up to date, that is where you can find us. I think, the next project we have coming up, Alan's working on something really big about social justice and the warriors for it. It's a comedy, but it's also very, very relevant. So that's like something we're like building up right now. So that's something to be on the lookout for. In terms of like collaborators, I don't know. I mean, if there's any actors out there, we're always looking for actors. So if you're in this area or this region, you know what I mean? Or if you're in the UK, and you're like, I'm trying to get on some from America, some US actor gig, let us know, man.
Well, I'll just add one quick thing about that. We've been doing everything out of pocket. So everything we do is out of pocket. And, really, I mean, ultimately, and I feel like every filmmaker is looking for people to believe in them with their money. So that's probably the number one thing that we really are, that we really could use. Now Filmstormers, which is the company that Manolo Campos runs, which was really what Precursor was built under, that name. That's the production company. That so we're working on a few different things. So we have we shot a short film, Fragile, over the summer as well, and that is that was a really big project. And so the idea is we have that paired with a pitch deck that we meticulously put together. And so now we're trying to get that in the right hands. In terms of Warriors for Social Justice, Corey is going to help me go back and rewrite a lot of the things to make it more relevant to now, because I wrote it a couple of years ago. And we have a pitch deck for that as well that we're working on alongside it to pair with the short film that we made. And so we're going to have that as a pitch series. So we're working on a few different things. So in terms of collaborations, we could use some people who could make something like that happen. Yeah. We have the pitch. We have the pitch.
Producers.
Give us something. Give us someone to pitch to.
One more thing. Coming full circle though, Pierre. So we got this skit, and it's a really funny skit, and it's all about like a diamond heist, right? But the thing is, we want to do it. But if we do it, we gotta be like, it's gotta be Guy Ritchie-esque UK. So like, even if you could help with the accents, like we was just talking about UK guy Daniel, you know what I mean, doing roles and stuff like that. So I don't want to offend anybody. So if you could help me with my accent, you know what I mean? Like I would appreciate it, so we can get this thing going. We'll give you credits and all that.
I'll be happy to. Please do.
My man.
Yeah.
My man.
Yeah. Accents are big over here. I have a little bit of a background in acting because I was a child actor, and I did some theater and some plays like Oliver Twist with like little English accents. Yeah. So when I moved over here, I thought I was spot on. Like, oh yeah, I can do an English accent. No, and all these people like it would be like, what are you doing? What are you doing? They're so particular about accent over here. Oh yeah.
I mean,
nice guys.
Oh wait, can I actually ask one question?
Absolutely, Pierre.
How did you all get into film? Like, what sparked that? I'm always interested.
For me personally, like, so I was a theater major. I went to a performing arts school, like high school and things. I went to Niagara University for theater. And I think the kick that we're on now, where we're doing it at this scale, for me, was just that, like, I was kind of tired of waiting. Like, I've been an actor in New York, and I've gone on auditions, and they're great, and they can give you big opportunities. But I was like, I want to see this thing, like this thing. I want to see this made. And if no one's making it, why can't we make it? You know what I mean? So we found a group of filmmakers who were like just as down. Like anytime we have an idea, they're like, all right, let's shoot it. They have the equipment. They have the cameras. Shout out to my man Mike Thompson, Ben Manarino. And they're always just down. But the main spark was, I'm not seeing this done, and I want to, so I'll just shoot it, and that's kind of what started for me.
Yeah, I'll just speak real quickly on it. I grew up like with a handy cam. My parents had a handy cam, like camcorder, you know what I mean? And me and my cousin and my brother would just like walk around and make these little movies, right? And that turned into like actual storylines, and that turned into like actually casting our cousins in the next movie, right? And then just kind of grew. I went to college for theater, went to New York City, and really focused mostly on theater, did a lot of TV commercial work in that. But then when I came back to Buffalo, because of COVID, actually, that's when we kind of doubled down and we're like, well, everything's closed. Like, what can we do, right? What can we do? Yeah. And so that's what we ended up doing, man. Yeah.
What about you, though? What sparked
For
it?
me, I mean, I'm a huge inspiration of, I wanted to become an animator. And I love like growing up, like I loved like anime so much. Like I wanted to move to Japan and like do all of that. But I sucked at drawing, so. But I
put a hindrance on that a little bit.
Exactly. But I always had the image in my head of like the story I wanted to tell. So it's just a matter of like finding the right medium that you could express that through. Yeah. And what about you, Dustin?
Yeah, Dustin.
Nice. Oh, well, the tables have turned. You're running the Q&A.
No, we're the interviewers.
Yeah, I started out as a child actor, and that was kind of really my introduction to arts and entertainment. And similar to Alan, I started playing in the backyard with a camera with a friend when I was 11 years old, and pretty much from that point on, it's the only thing I ever wanted to do. Acting is making art, making films has been such a part of my identity. I never really had that, post-college crisis of what do I want to do with my life. It's always been, I know what I want to do with my life. Now, how do I do it? So started making films. Lucky enough to be in California. Film was taught at my high school. So I started competing at film festivals at 14, 15, 16 years old, and got swept up in the industry that way, and now started a film festival and continuing to do projects all around. I got a couple shorts in the festival circuit right now. So yeah, that's the thing about our festival. We're a filmmaker-led festival, so we really empathize with what you guys are going through in the festival circuit and want to make sure you guys have a good experience.
Right on, man. We appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you so much as well for having us.
Yeah. Absolutely, guys. Thanks so much. So any last words before we sign off?
Man, teamwork make the dream work. Don't stop believing. Something inspirational Kobe line I'm gonna throw out there. Like, you know what I mean? But this has been a lot of fun, and like it's amazing to see what your dreams can actually do. And even though we're not on the scale of Hollywood moguls or anything like that, this is still a representation of where your dreams can take you. To talk to other filmmakers, like Pierre, I haven't seen your film yet, but I have to see it. Like, I want to know what this is about. Totally. So this networking and this connection, man, like, Dustin, thank you. This is a representation of where your dreams can take you when you go for it. So I appreciate it.
That's amazing. Appreciate you guys.
Sure.
Nice, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. So, for anybody watching, we are only on day 2 of the People's Film Festival. We're going until next Friday. We have our award show next Friday. So best of luck to the nominees. We have 50 short films streaming at kinoshortfilm.com/the People's Film Festival. You can access all of them for pay only what you can afford, since everybody is having a rough time with the COVID economy right now. So have a look at the shorts. All of the money goes back into making more shorts and supporting artists. So have a peek around the website. It's been great to chat with you guys. And
you too,
see you
man.
around the festival.
Thank you so much.
Right on.
My man.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.